York Trials Unit at the University of York, this is the Research Room.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to the Research Room with me, Lucy Ather.
And me, Janine Healy.
And this is part 2 of our 2-part episode on the DISC trial. So welcome back, everyone who's listened to part 1. If you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you go back and listen to that now so you know what we're talking about. So we were talking to Puvan and Charlie, who were telling us all about their project DISC. And we'll be joined by Chief Investigator for the DISC trial, Professor Joseph Dias. So, the big question.
Should we do a drum roll?
What were your results then?
Well, like we said, before I kind of go and put my foot in it, like we said earlier, there were various different kind of components of work, and actually, those different components of work take slightly different perspectives. And if you look at each of those, they potentially tell a slightly different story about which treatment was better from which perspective. Although in some sense they also do support the results of one another as well. So I'll start with clinical effectiveness because that's where, as the statistician, I was kind of primarily involved. So we found that, or we did not reject the hypothesis that collagenase is inferior to surgery. So what do I mean by that? Or shall I unpack that?
Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Essentially, we found that collagenase, with respect to our single primary endpoint, which was this score for the primary endpoint at 1 year, we found that collagenase really did appear to be worse. Surgery did, in fact, seem to offer a reasonably substantial treatment advantage over collagenase with regards to that endpoint.
So that was people's idea
quality of life, was it?
Their hand condition was essentially causing perhaps more problems for them day to day than in the collagenase arm compared to those that were treated with surgery.
Yeah.
And we saw that really that message was fairly consistent across a lot of the outcomes. So the other patient-reported outcomes showed similar kind of patterns. So we see an initial sort of benefit from collagenase. Patients tended to get back to work quicker. They tended to recover function quicker. So at 3 months, we actually see a significant difference, a statistically significant difference in favour of the collagenase group. And then that sort of difference actually faded over time and reversed as we get to kind of 6 and 12 months post-treatment, which is quite interesting. And then the gap continues to widen out to the 2-year endpoint. And we also see similar sorts of results for the clinical outcomes. So we mentioned earlier the joint measurements of the finger. They show much the same pattern. So slightly poorer extension, sort of almost worse range of movement in the surgery group immediately following treatment, as you might expect, given the additional rigors of surgery. And then, but actually that difference reversing in terms of the direction later on down the line. And so actually by 1 and 2 years post-treatment, actually the group treated with collagenase have quite a bit less range of motion compared to the patients that were treated using surgery. And then actually as well, that re-intervention outcome again tells a slightly similar story. So because of the relatively short follow-up period, 2 years is in terms of a kind of fairly slow-moving condition like Dupuytren's contracture is not actually that long. But we did see a significant difference in the rate of re-interventions. So patients allocated to collagenase condition appeared to be worsening quicker over time compared with the surgery group. And that's also manifested in rates of retreatment. So patients in the collagenase group actually ended up receiving retreatment or re-intervention sooner than those in the surgery group. Which I suppose, thinking about that re-intervention, that brings us onto the cost-effectiveness outcomes, obviously re-intervention carrying quite a large cost. The cost-effectiveness outcomes arguably are even more sort of nuanced than the clinical effectiveness outcomes. So at 1 year, we, despite the fact that collagenase appeared to be less effective in terms of the clinical effectiveness endpoints, we actually find it to be more cost-effective. And a lot of that's to do with essentially quite a small difference in terms of the patient's overall quality of life, which is what the cost effectiveness or what the health economists use. So cost effectiveness has measured it in terms of the so-called EQ5D, which I'm sure if you're interested in trials, you'll no doubt have heard of.
I think everybody's
Yeah.
Heard of the EQ5D. Yeah,
It's a
my nan's heard of
questionnaire,
the
isn't it?
EQ5D, yeah.
I think a lot of people have filled them in and not realised it's an EQ5D.
Probably.
Oh, probably, yeah.
So a relatively small difference in terms of effectiveness as measured by EQ5D at 1 year, but actually quite a large difference in cost, principally because of that initial kind of additional investment associated with surgery compared to collagenase and the theatre time, etc., that we discussed earlier. Now, that changes somewhat when you get to 2 years. So if you look in the longer term again, you start seeing almost a reversal of that trend. So at 1 year, there's this fairly clear signal that collagenase is the more cost-effective treatment compared with surgery. But then as you get to 2 years, actually, that sort of probability diminishes somewhat. And actually, I know the health economist worked very hard doing a lot of long-term economic modelling and actually looking in the kind of even longer term, sort of extrapolating from the data that were available plus other results that are available in the literature. It seems that initial cost effectiveness advantage of collagenase at 1 year appears to kind of fade at 5 or 10 years
it's
or over the
initially
patient's lifetime.
Cheaper, but actually over time it ends up being a bit more expensive.
Yeah, and there's uncertainty associated with that. So like I said, there's a relatively small number of patients who ended up receiving re-intervention. So our kind of best guess at what the reintervention rate in each group, is somewhat uncertain. But the economic modelling did suggest that in the longer term, we see that kind of initial cost effectiveness of collagenase kind of waning, principally driven by higher rates of reintervention.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So how did the patients think about this?
But it was an interesting sort of package of findings there, where often you're having people waiting quite a long time before they even seek treatment. So that's something that was quite a common theme. So they're quite a severe impact on their lives before they come. And I think this strengthens the awareness element to not just sit with it if it comes.
That's
patients who say, oh, nothing happening. Make sure the health system is aware of your condition and so on. So I think that's one important thing, like to strengthen that message around people seeking treatment. In relation to once you had treatment, people obviously felt some improvement in the initial period after both the treatments. But obviously those who experienced collagenase initially, although, they might get it again, they felt that they wouldn't mind having that again because it seemed to them less of a, sort of imposition. And so I think it's an interesting learning from that in terms of people with chronic conditions and their perspective on the sequence of treatments that happen. So I think this information from the qualitative study, definitely read by clinicians, will help them feel a bit more confident, when they're listening to their patients and what kind of person they are. And at least the evidence is showing can go with the instinct of the patient if that's where they're feeling and you have this available to you. So I think that's the value of the qualitative work.
But it also proves that it helps initially, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And sometimes you have to wait a long time for surgery. So
yes,
they can offer this quick fix, which then they can have another quick fix later, or they could have surgery later. So it would give them...
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you think from the clinical outcomes and the cost effectiveness, you'll be like, oh, well, surgery maybe is the obvious choice. But then actually when you talk to the patients, they might say, actually, no, I'd rather have the injection, even if I have to have it again and again.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they're happy for the impact. And I think, it touches on the point that you raised, Janine, around if waiting times in the NHS for these conditions are still long, obviously that's going to influence how a patient is going to decide, if they're given the choice, which one would they have? Because if they're saying, yes, surgery might fix it for a longer period of time, but I've got to wait many, many weeks to have one. But I have this other thing that I could maybe give you in slightly shorter time, then why wouldn't you do something when you've not had it? But so we intended to collect data up to 2 years, as Charlie might have said to you earlier, but not everyone in the study will be able to collect the 2-year data. But that did mean, as Charlie said, the amount of information available to look at what's happening in the longer term was more limited than we would have had we done the study had gone on in the initial funded time. So there was a kind of compromise there. But so, that's why some of the later findings Charlie spoke about, he's constantly caveating that with, but it's on small numbers.
Yeah, there's always sort of, some degree of uncertainty, as there is with any results. But I think, particularly given the challenges we faced with, I think particularly COVID. Personally, I still think we got sort of some useful findings over that longer time. It's just in an ideal world, then perhaps we would have followed everyone up, obviously, ideally. But these things happen, and obviously COVID caused challenges like that for
a lot of trials,
a lot of projects. It certainly wasn't just us by any means.
Yeah. Wow! It sounds like you got loads of really interesting results there. So I guess the question is, what's next for DISC? Do you kind of give those results to the doctors, and then they can use them to make their decisions?
Well, I mean, in terms of sort of publication of the results, we've got NIHR monograph in the public domain.
What's a monograph?
A monograph?
It's a very, very long document with...
Sounds like a Victorian gentleman's pamphlet, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. It's nice to be the author of a monograph. It makes one feel...
It does, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like I've made it somehow.
Yeah. You've made it when you've done a monograph.
So that's in the public domain, and then we've also got some papers looking at some of the specific elements that we've mentioned. So the clinical results paper is out in the New England Journal of Medicine, and the economic evaluation paper that's forthcoming, I think. Soon,
so all the other papers have been submitted. So the clinical results paper, as Charlie just said, is in the New England Journal of Medicine, and actually, I don't know whether hyperlinking it to this college.
Yeah, we can definitely put links in the show notes.
There's a really good quick take video that they've made.
Oh, great!
And we also did another piece of work comparing, which is led by the team at the University of Leicester, where they were looking at whether sort of self-taken photographs for measuring the angles of the contracture could replace coming into the clinic and having your measurement taken by...
so you take a picture at home yourself
sort of
and send
self-directed.
that in.
So that moving towards a more decentralized model of care, being able to have more routine measures over period.
Speed things up, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Prof. Dias, the chief investigator, was trying to use this study as an opportunity to really investigate whether that would be a workable option in clinical care going forward. So there's another paper looking at comparing patient-taken photographs versus clinic-taken measurements and seeing whether they can be used and under what circumstances they can be used.
So there's a sub-study.
Yeah, another.
We like to pack studies full of as much sub-studies as we can.
Those results are in the public domain. With regards to the next steps, there is still a package of work that is going on around this Dupuytren's contractures. So there is another trial that the NIHR, which is the national funder in the UK, has funded, which is currently ongoing, which is comparing two methods of surgery.
Okay.
Which isn't finished recruiting yet, and it's sort of started after the DISC trial. We are engaged, the team there, because our idea there is to bring the data together. So in a future point, be able to bring the information together across the DISC trial and the HAND-2 trial in what we call a network meta-analysis, where you bring the data together
from different trials.
And that would be very informative in the kind of global picture.
In general, I'd say that the DISC data set does provide us kind of treasure trove of potential kind of research opportunities for kind of methodological research. Watch this space, I suppose.
Yeah, lots more to come from DISC.
Yeah. It sounds like it's developed quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think now we've got a bit of fun. We've got some random questions for you.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. You might have noticed.
You're not prepared for these.
No, we didn't warn you about these.
No.
And we've got this rather nice hat, and we're going to pick some questions out of the hat for you.
Right.
And don't worry, they're all nice. Well, most of them are nice. So should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
What's one thing you wish you knew earlier in your project? Probably that COVID was about to come along.
Yeah, crystal ball to have predicted the pandemic.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got one or two kind of methodological ideas that I could start with. I think when DISC started, well, so in recent years in the kind of methodological and kind of stats kind of clinical trials literature, there's been a lot of emphasis on really clearly specifying your research questions. And I think actually having sort of access to some of the ideas and some of the stuff that's sort of come out of that in the last few years potentially would have been very useful back in 2016, I suppose, when the DISC was being kind of planned out, particularly around that kind of dealing with the issues with time to receipt of treatment and actually what to do with patients who actually never received treatment. There were a certain number of patients in the trial who never actually received treatment. So randomized, they never received treatment. And because we referenced follow-up to the point of treatment delivery, they were never followed up. Perhaps having a clearer framework for exactly what we were going to do with that eventuality right back at the start of the trial probably would have saved quite a lot of headaches kind of further down the line. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that's sort of with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
So is it, what would I've hoped to have known?
Or one thing you wish you knew.
Yeah,
at
so
the beginning.
the product being pulled from
that's a big one.
Oh, yes.
wasn't the first time there was a delivery challenge on the study, because but in a good way, it taught me quite directly about being, I guess, more prepared in the future. But when you're doing large, these sort of real world or pragmatic studies, this study also had an issue of where the treatment was being delivered because of the way the NHS is organized, because it might span, more than one government and so on. Suddenly being changed from like some centers saying I can do it and then I can't do it. And it definitely has made, as a more senior researcher now, made me think about being more aware of the way the the NHS or clinical care pathways evolution and hotspots for that changing, and being able to respond to that now. What I'm saying is you can't predict it, but we have to be ready for it. But some of the things that happen in the study now would hopefully then for future, if they do happen in other projects and so on, being able to respond a bit better to them, I think is probably a benefit of it. But
well, and similar kind of principles, I suppose, with respect to the disruption caused by the pandemic, having tools in place to ensure you can adapt to that. And I know there's been work more widely in the kind of trials community to try and make, I guess, trials more robust to kind of shocks like that in some sense. Or if it is going to cause a shock, actually, how do we manage that? What tools
and not
are
give
there
up as well, and not give up. Like really take stock of what you can do.
That's your motto. Don't give up.
Don't give up, but also I think look at the information you've accumulated and perhaps use that to guide the decision as to whether what you do next. And sort of don't be afraid to wait for more information to arrive before you make that decision, I suppose.
Yeah.
What's your favourite part of your research? Please don't say stats, Charles.
The numbers, maths.
Yeah, we like some numbers.
You can be honest.
You
love the
actually.
numbers.
No, I probably the bit I find most interesting or enjoy the most is actually kind of shaping a scientific question into a statistical question, and actually recognizing that those two things are, the statistics come second almost, actually think scientifically about a problem and then, think about what statistical methods or estimators or whatever you need to use, how to actually answer that question. But you've got to have a really kind of clear idea of what that question is first. And that I think is the area that I crucially think is probably of most value in applied research, of actually trying to, as a statistician, trying to help research teams think through carefully about what exactly it is they're trying to investigate and specifying that really precisely, and then actually thinking about what methods you bring to the table to do that, and sort of aligning your analysis methods with that question.
Well, that's actually a good advert for why we need statistics, isn't it? Like you just said.
Well, I think we need good scientific thinking, and then I guess also some statistical thinking off the back of that. But I think it's in my opinion, the sort of science and the logic and almost the substantive meaning of what you're doing takes precedence over what statistical tests you're going to do or whatever. That's in some ways of secondary importance to me. But yeah, I think that's probably what the element of my job that I enjoy the most, or I think that is potentially the most kind of useful, if you will.
Yeah. Puvan?
So like this project specifically, isn't it? So but I guess because it was in like 2017, 18, like when it first started, and definitely listening actively to what the patients and clinicians are saying and translating that into, adapting the methods in the study, which we also had to do, was something for me at that stage. I guess that was more like, I did enjoy. I mean, in the sense that ultimately it's switching, like the hit switching to saying, they could be having a challenging conversation here, but what opportunity do we have as methodologists to solve this?
Yes.
So is that kind of like, rather than, oh my God, why are they all like telling us our, what to do differently? Like now it's like my head goes into a different place. Like if you're having a robust conversation and think again critically, methodologically, what actually are we supposed to, sort of figure out here? Was definitely something that I definitely really enjoyed after a while, because that's where our jobs kind of become really important from our other projects to say,
making change.
They're saying this and this, why don't we try this?
Don't be afraid to do
helping people's minds while we're doing research in the first place.
Yeah.
Right, I'll go in for one more.
Well, we're not off the hook yet.
Oh, you're not off the hook. No, we've got
one more.
What was your dream job as a kid before you knew that researcher was an option? Or statistician, which obviously is your dream job.
I don't know what you mean. I've always wanted to know.
You must have liked maths.
No, I certainly enjoyed doing maths at A-level, and during my degree I perhaps developed an interest in kind of pursuing applied statistics in some ways as a kind of career path. I certainly can't claim that at the age of 9 I was thinking I want to be a statistician on clinical trials. I'm not sure what I was thinking. Probably not anything terribly useful. But
it's hard remembering back to when you're 9, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I can't remember that. Yeah.
You can't remember anything before you were a statistician.
Yeah.
What is there to remember?
Exactly.
He's found his ideal job. Puvan, what about you?
Probably, I do know, probably working in sort of area of something in the built environment.
Right.
Built?
So like a town planner / architect type job is probably what I would have wanted to. By my teens, I was like, and I still am, like very taken up by like built spaces.
And architecture and things. It's great. Do you think we've got time for one more?
Might as well.
We'll do one more.
If your research had a mascot, what would it be?
Oh, what would the disc mascot be?
So specifically for the disc trial?
Yeah.
Yes.
A mascot?
Yeah.
Yes.
So logo.
Slightly strange idea.
I feel like you need like a hand or
you can't have a hand.
No, that's not
a contracted hand, or maybe a straightened out hand. It would be
a hand, like a hand, one of those
waving hand.
Yeah, waving hand.
Yeah.
Like a moving, talking hand.
I can't think of anything else that would be relevant.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Big cartoon hand.
Cartoon waving, talking hand. Yeah, I like that one.
Might have helped with recruitment if we'd had it back in 2017.
Yeah. Oh, there's a sub-study there. We'll add the logo. We'll add the mascot. See if it makes
Randomised to mascot or no mascot. Yeah.
I like it. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming into the research room and chatting to us about the DISC project. Yeah, I've learned so much. It was really, really interesting. And we'll put all the information in the show notes and some links to your papers, your monograph, so everyone can find some more information there. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much
for having us.
Conversation. Thanks.
And we've actually now got Chief Investigator Professor Dias joining us, and he's going to explain a bit more about what the results mean. Welcome to the research room, Professor Dias. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm Joe Dias. I'm a consultant hand surgeon in Leicester and a professor at Leicester University. And I've been working on different aspects of hand disorders for decades.
Mm-hmm. So Charlie and Puvan have told us about the results, and it was that you found the injection was better initially, but then in the long term it seemed that the surgery had better clinical outcomes. But then the qualitative work, the kind of interviews with the participants, seemed like they actually preferred the injection because it was less invasive, even though the contracture, the kind of bending of the finger, was more likely to come back. They sort of preferred that option. I just wondered if you were surprised by those results, or that's what you sort of expected.
We had an inkling about the results because of previous reviews that are done. They were not a proper study comparing these two treatments, but they still looked at how many people that had the injection required repeat surgery, etc. So we had an inkling of which way the results would go. But we looked at three large areas. The first thing is, as I said, those three things that patients want to know. We also looked at what the NHS would need to know, which is how much does it cost and if delivering a good outcome. And the third part was, so what did patients feel about it, which is the qualitative side. And none of the three groups were surprises to us. But what we did know, which we did not know before, was what proportions wound up needing secondary treatment, what proportions got harmed, and all that precision was there. So we were not just talking to you as my patient, saying, oh, this is the risk. The risk is numbness or stiffness. We can tell you that if you had surgery, this is the proportion that will get numbness, this is the proportion that will get stiffness, and if you had injections, what the proportions were.
Oh, yeah, that's really helpful for helping people decide which treatment they'd want.
Is that the main thing then, that it's the patient's choice?
It is not only common sense, it's also a legal requirement to do it. And but the common sense is you don't give your preferred treatment to the patient. You explain what is possible and what the benefits are versus the risks, and take them through the whole thing and help them decide what fits them the best. Do you see?
Yeah.
And that is why the medicine, particularly the way it's practiced here in the UK, is very, very good. Because it allows you the choice. What fits one patient may be completely different to what fits another patient. So you do the right thing. And this sort of surgery, where it is not life-saving surgery, but it helps how your hand functions and how you do tasks. And even simple things like holding a child's hand or cuddling somebody changes when your finger is stuck bent. So little things get intrude in life. And the results are very, very clear. The first thing that patients ask is, how likely is it that I'm going to have a straight finger? And we know that from the DISC study now, that 4 out of 5 patients who have surgery will wind up with a completely straight finger, whereas 2 out of 3 patients who have the injection will wind up with a straight finger. So the proportions are different. It's 80% compared to around 62%.
Right.
That will get the correction. It isn't that the others have not been improved, because when you include everybody who's been improved, then 99% get improvement in both treatments, but less have complete correction after an injection than after surgery.
Right.
So it depends on what they want from the hand then. It's if they want to have it fully straightened, there's a higher chance if they have surgery. But if they can cope with it not being fully straightened or coming back again and having to have more treatment, then it's their decision.
That is, yeah. You're talking about the trade-off, but before you come to the trade-off, you then need to look at the harms. Because
Okay.
the harms is the other way around, the stiffness or numbness. And we're talking about harms that leave a consequence,
Yeah.
which means that they don't settle completely, and you're left with a slight reduction in the feeling of the finger or stiffness that hasn't corrected completely. So they're called moderate or severe harms. And those, if you have surgery, remember, you get better correction after surgery. But 1 in 20 will be left with an aftermath due to something that has happened because of the surgery. Either change feeling or a bit of stiffness, 1 in 20. Whereas if you have an injection, 1 in 50 will have an aftermath that is lasting like that. So the risk level is much lower after an injection than surgery. But in both groups, the risk level is very low. So when you compare the benefit and the harms together and say how much benefit, how risky is it, then overall you wouldn't be hesitating about either treatment if the patient chose one or the other, but you would explain the risks to the patient. And the third thing is how long is it going to last? And we know that a lot more patients who have the injection, the finger will bend again and you will need another operation. So at 2 years, for example, in those that had an operation, this is over 200 patients in each group. And of those, 5 required repeat operations at the end of 2 years. But of the ones that had injection, 26 required repeat operations. And those figures could be greater because we ended the study just after the pandemic. So lots of patients were listed, but not yet done. So we don't have a precise number, but of the number that we know, the rates are completely different.
Yeah.
Between the two groups. And that actually summarizes the whole study from the outcomes point of view. So it shows that the benefits are less after the injection than surgery, and it lasts for a shorter time after the injection than after surgery. But it isn't as if the finger bends immediately back to where it was. So you get a time where you have benefit. And that is what got picked up, as we were talking earlier. That is what got picked up in the study where we asked patients what they preferred, which is the qualitative study. And patients clearly preferred less intrusive treatments and preferred the injection. And we suspect, and we did ask this question at 2 years further down the line, is what would you have if you had to choose now? And there was still a large proportion of patients that were quite happy to trade off incomplete correction for a less intrusive treatment.
Yeah.
And that is where the patient choice comes in.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting results. So yeah, it sounds like you learn an awful lot from the trial that will be really helpful when deciding what treatment to use with the patient when they're deciding what treatment to use. And now, before you maybe didn't know, and now you have got some solid information that you can share with them when they're deciding.
Absolutely. And you can tell them what the proportions are.
Yeah.
Because it's easy just to say stiffness and numbness or incomplete correction. But without giving the proportions, none of us could make a judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's much easier. You can it kind of illustrates it a lot better and you can sort of think about it.
So the collagenase, didn't it get pulled as a drug pathway through the trial?
Collagenase was introduced after research in New York State University, Larry Hurst and Marie Badalamenti. and others. And what Larry showed, and this is about 16 years ago, and what he showed, that injecting with collagenase that is obtained from bacteria. So you grow bacteria,
Oh, wow.
they generate the enzyme, and then you get the collagenase. Collagenase, the very name collagen is scar, and ase is something that digests it.
Oh, right. Of course.
So therefore, you get collagenase from bacteria. And he showed that treating patients with collagenase was better than not treating patients.
Oh, right. Okay.
With Contracture. But he didn't demonstrate that it was better than the other treatments.
Right. Okay. So it was just better than nothing, but
it's better than nothing. That is correct. And that came about 16 years ago. I think it was 2009. So everybody started using it across the world, but nobody has shown it was better, didn't show how long any benefit lasted. So there were lots of questions that we couldn't answer at that time. So that is why our NIHR asked us to do this study. Then what they found was you can use collagenase for lots of other things. And one of the things was cellulite.
Oh, really?
Now, lots of people would prefer to have collagenase for cellulite and pay a lot of money for that.
Oh, I see.
And for Dupuytren. So what the company that was manufacturing it did was it withdrew collagenase for Dupuytren's, so they could then have a greater amount of drug to use for a cosmetic treatment.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize that. We didn't realize that.
So what happened? The company is in the US, and they are still using collagenase in the US, but they withdrew collagenase from all overseas markets.
Right.
So it wasn't that anybody found it was less efficient or less effective. In fact, there are other collagenases that have been developed which are going to come on the market.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, you know that the intervention is still there and the proof is still needed.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was the withdrawal, and this hit us right in the middle of the study. But the firm was very good. They provided us with the stocks to continue the study, etc.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's good.
As they were withdrawing. Even in the UK, collagenase is available, but it is hugely expensive. It's not even as expensive as it was when we started the study.
Oh, right.
So it is still being used in the US.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Did you enjoy working on the DISC study? Did you enjoy running the study?
The study was great. It is great fun to do. And we had lots of our patients were our advisors. So we had a very good, close-knit group. And lots of advice throughout. And we needed that advice because we were facing quite huge challenges, like the withdrawal of the drug, the pandemic getting in the way, and all that. So so getting their advice on how to work around, so we still got the results, and having colleagues in the York Trials unit, Catherine Arundel and Puvan, Charlie and the lot, and Chi. It has been absolutely very good fun. It's been a team that has been that nobody saw a problem as anything other than a challenge.
Yeah.
And every challenge got addressed and met, and you overcame the challenge. And that was really, we got complimented by the NIHR and things for having delivered the study in spite of everything that got thrown. And in the end, the star of the whole show is actually not your trials unit, not me. It was actually our patients.
Mm.
In spite of everything, gave us the data. And patients took their own photographs so that we knew how bent the finger was. And they took on responsibilities that we were never anticipating that they would be required to take. And even now, patients will come in and ask the results of the study, etc. And we have sent results to each and every patient because without patients, you can't answer these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
yeah, definitely. We love all our patients, all our people who participate in trials.
They're very important.
They're very, well, yeah, they're the most important. And
You can't do it. You can't help patients without the patients helping us to know what is better.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're saying it's a great team to work with, but I include my patients as a part of my team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose the other thing is, I suppose, have you got any more plans for doing some trials to do with this Dupuytren?
We're doing another trial, which is almost finished, which is comparing needle treatment,
Okay.
which is again done in clinic, comparing that to the surgery.
Right.
And the
Okay.
two trials, the DISC study and the other trial is called the HAND 2 study.
Mm.
And the two trials are going to merge all our information to be able to compare the three treatments.
Oh, great.
So, and this is planned as well. So we'll have a lot of good quality information. It's being run by Professor Davis in Nottingham and the Nottingham Trials Unit, that study. And we'll be a part of that as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us all about the results and about the whole trial. We really appreciate you taking time to talk to us and coming into the research room with us.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks
It's
very
been
much.
very interesting.
Thanks a lot, Lucy. Thanks a lot, Lucy. Thanks, Janine.